The chair lays out House Bill 1348. The chair recognizes Representative Clardy to explain his bill and apologizes for the long wait. I apologize, boss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and no apology needed. I actually enjoyed that testimony in those bills. Very informative. Appreciate the work that this committee does on these issues and for taking the time to hear House Bill 1348, the Auto Body Insurance Accountability Bill. I think back on this bill often and fondly because you'll be hearing from one of my constituents, Burl Richards from Henderson, Texas, who actually brought this to me last session. We fought the good fight then, but we're back again for another round, and feel very optimistic about our chances here. What House Bill 1348 does, it really seeks to eliminate some of the biggest problems in the auto insurance market by ensuring that consumers, our constituents, have access to quality and safe original parts for their vehicles when they're being repaired. Consumers should be protected by state law and should not be subject to unsavory business practices that can lead to catastrophic events. Automobiles are among the biggest purchases our constituents make. We count on them to deliver us to our destination safely. And after a collision or damage event, Texans have a right and really an expectation that their vehicles will be repaired to its pre-accident condition. Repairs need to be made safely, using safe parts and following accepted safe procedures. I will pause and say this about repairs. We all remember the shade tree mechanics and guys around the neighborhood that could fix cars and swap out a carburetor and do those things. But cars have changed so much and so rapidly. In just the last few years since I came to the legislature in 2013, the safety advances and the features on cars now are remarkably different. And that technology has really driven some things that need to be accounted for in our insurance code with respect to repairs. You can have a car that looks perfectly well repaired, it's been painted, it looks nice, but we don't know that those sensors have been accurately calibrated to fit so that airbag deploys, that those safety features will work. All these things that now are commonplace in our newer cars can't be done by just somebody around the back. It takes specialized equipment, specialized training, and a significant capital investment by the companies that do this work that keep Texans safe. You'll be hearing from Ms. Sebashan, who will tell you about her case in Dallas County, their family case, and it really brought these safety issues to light. In that accident, a young couple was hit head-on by a large pickup, and their vehicle failed catastrophically, bursting into flames and trapping them inside. Fortunately, there was a young Marine who charged in, saved them from certain death, but their injuries were severe, requiring years of treatment. An investigation later revealed that the roof on their vehicle had been glued on rather than been tack welded in as required by OEM by the manufacturer's repair instructions. It literally been glued on with a equivalent of super glue, causing the roof to tear off, a failure of all the safety features, the chassis. All of these are incorporated components of a vehicle. The couple there was no way of discovering it. It was not reported to Carfax, and the experience is all too common. It was one of those things that we see time and time again. It's becoming an emerging safety issue for our constituents. Leading auto repair groups have stepped up and described this problem throughout our state. I've been working with leading folks in this industry, including Burl. When we came here last time, we were kind of a couple of guys on a mission, and it's really grown into a movement, and a movement I'm proud of. I think you may remember Auto Collision Day. We had the car, the van here on the grounds of the Capitol to talk about this issue. And I want to stress this. These people are in this business to make a living. And they work hard, and they have employees, and they want to pay their bills and grow their business and make money, and that's the American way. But I've never met a group of people that are more committed to safety than these group of people that repair these vehicles. And they know what has to be done to repair the car, not just because of their training and experience, but because the manufacturers set out in excruciating detail, this is what has to be done. But the insurance companies have engaged in practices that discourage those repairs being done in the right way, in an acceptable way, and they're not paying for those repairs when the specialists take it on themselves. The problem is endemic, and we're seeing it show up in a number of ways. One of the things this bill does, there's already in the statute a prohibition against what's called steering, where you have a wreck, you call up, and they say, well, you ought to take it over to XYZ place, which has a special relationship with the insurance company. And you say, well, I'd rather take it to, pick on my boy Burl, who, by the way, we thought our coach from Corpus Christi was country. Wait till you hear Burl. But Burl will
we have a ribbon at the end.
Yes,
of it.
Well, I don't know. He's going to medal. I'm not sure he's going to get gold, but he'll medal. But Burl will tell you that and there's documented instances of this where, well, I'd like to take it to Burl. He's my collision guy. Well, if you take it there, you may not be able to get your deductible back. It's going to take longer. We can get somebody there right now if you'll take it over to this shop. Very subtle, but sometimes not too subtle forms of steering by the insurance companies, and why it's a way they can reduce costs, have inferior repairs made, and pass that burden and truth back to the consumer who paid good dollars, like we all do, for our insurance policies and for our premiums. It's kind of a recurring theme, it seems, for today's testimony. HB 138 ensures Texans will have these safe repairs made using safe parts following these accepted safety guidelines and procedures. It strengthens our anti-steering laws, which I've mentioned. It does not mandate the use of original equipment. Now, again, there are times when original equipment OEM parts are necessary and required, but that's not required. That's dependent upon what the instructions are that come with the repair specifications. It does require that parts used in the repair are quality parts that have been proven to be safe. It defines prevailing rate and reasonable necessary amount to remove any confusion for repair facilities and the insurance industry alike, ensuring repairs are done the right way. This interim, I spent some time with the TDI, and there's a reason that we've had to come back with this bill. I was of the opinion then, and frankly I am now, that the existing bill against steerage and some other things within the provision, including these repairs, are in statute. But I was told by the TDI officials then and their crew that met with us, and several from the automobile industry or the automobile collision folks, that they didn't think they had the specificity within the statute to direct them how to deal with this. Now, I will say I think I have a fundamental disagreement in how the TDI seems to view its relationship between consumers and insurance companies. I don't see it as to be the broker or the mediator or the go-between or the liaison between the consumers and the insurance companies. I view the role of the TDI to be the advocate, to be the protector of the consumers, our constituents, of real Texans over the insurance companies. They are to have the oversight and responsibility to keep those companies in line and follow the statutes. But again, with deference towards their comments, we're back here today to provide that specificity in the law, where there's no question that the Texas Department of Insurance has oversight and responsibility and a means to enforce the law and to make sure that our Texans are kept safe. So I have droned on enough on this bill in my open. I'll reserve the right to maybe drone on a little better at the end, but I will just say I want to introduce a couple of folks who are going to be testifying for you. Burl, we'll hear from Greg Luther with the Houston Auto Body Association, Gerald Compton, Southeast Texas Collision Group, Ware Wendell of Texas Watch, and Ms. Marcia Sebastian will be here to talk about the wreck. Unfortunately, Mr. Todd Tracy was unable to stay. His daughter has been in a serious health issue and had to return back to Dallas. But members, I'd ask you to pay particular attention to these witnesses. Listen to this issue. Think about this as your mom who may have had an accident in the parking lot, which we will not go into, Dr. Bonin, or others in your families had these wrecks. Think about those folks that you hear of, that your constituents call your offices needing help because they're not getting treated fairly. That's our job to do that, and I hope, members, you will join me in that. With that, I'll reserve the right to close and answer any questions.
Did you say, is Ms. Sebastian still here?
I believe so.
Okay, great. We're going to call her first. I thought you said she may have gone back, but we want to make sure we take her up first. But does anyone have any questions for the? Yes, Representative.
Yes, sir.
Question for you. Does this prevent the insurance company from giving you the list of different repair shops and tell you these are?
No, not at all. It doesn't prepare
you need to go to.
from a list. And again, that's one of the, and these I think you can talk about that, but no, it doesn't prevent them from saying these are qualified, certified shops that can do these things. But what it does prevent them from doing is saying you really need to go to this one. You need to go to this shop to the exclusion of others. That's the purpose of this bill.
Do they actually do that nowadays?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Members, any other questions? I think you need to be more thorough in your layout next time.
I'll do my best,
Okay,
Chairman.
all right. We'll call you up to close. Thank you, boss.
He's so shy.
He very is. Yeah, we're gonna get him some help. The chair calls Marcia Sebastian. If you please state your name, who you represent, and how you're testifying on the bill.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marcia Sibichan. I represent myself, and I'm testifying in favor of House Bill 1348.
Thank you. Please proceed.
So I would like to start by first expressing my appreciation to you for supporting your daughter in Destination Imagination.
Awesome.
I did Odyssey of the Mind growing up. My mom was my coach, and we went to state. And I was just telling Matthew last week the impact it's had on my life and being able to legitimately survive situations like this. And I hope your daughter is able to talk about the impact on her life in her 30s.
Just a personal privilege. She's going to Globals in Kansas City next month, so we're all very excited.
I never had that
Yeah.
privilege, but I hope it's wonderful for her.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So thank you all for your time and consideration of this issue. And Representative Johnson, I especially want to tell you I appreciate your service to Carrollton. That's the area I grew up in. So my husband Matthew and I have always approached life with a sense of responsibility as a high priority. We worked very hard, we budgeted, we had education and career goals in mind, and we took care of our health. When we had to purchase a car in 2013, we did research into fuel efficiency, repair costs, and safety ratings. To this day, we still have the original Carfax report, which was printed for us, showing one previous owner and no bodywork on this vehicle. A few months after purchasing that car, we were driving to my grandparents' house in the hill country for Christmas when a truck lost control and hit us. We were both seriously injured, and it is exceptional that we are alive today. My injuries included, not limited to, broken bones, perforated intestines, spinal damage, and a torn aorta. 2 of my injuries should have killed me, and 1 could have. Matthew was not as fortunate. He was trapped in the car as it caught on fire and burned his legs, exposing the bone in some places. He is still alive. He wasn't able to come today. He didn't think he could endure this, honestly. The effects of the wreck on our health and marriage, thank you. I'm good sitting with my tears. Y'all are just going to have to too. I'm sorry. The effects of the wreck on our health, marriage, family, careers, and finances were devastating. This pain was exacerbated when we were told that this Carfax report was completely inaccurate and the car had in fact been repaired poorly before we owned it. The insurance company and the body shop had decided that for cost efficiency, they would replace the roof with a 3M adhesive instead of welding it in the 108 places that the OEM standards specified. This choice impacted the structural integrity of the car, and it is the reason that our injuries were as severe as they were. One of our experts testified in court that had the car been repaired to OEM standards, a predictable outcome would have been that Matthew would have only suffered a broken leg, the same leg that I cleaned his bones on through his wounds. Companies spend time and money engineering safe vehicles. It is unconscionable that companies can undermine this process by approving insufficient repairs. This practice prevents Texas consumers from making informed decisions about their lives and safety, even when, like us, they do their due diligence and research. Pre-owned vehicle sales in Texas far exceed new car sales every year. Families who own pre-owned cars are no less deserving of the right to be safe and make informed decisions for their families than those who can afford new cars and have the fortune to do that. We will never know how many past deaths and injuries could have been prevented with proper repairs, but you today can work toward preventing some in the future by approving House Bill 1348 and requiring that repair work be completed to the standards of the original manufacturer. We currently have hail damage on my vehicle, and because of this whole experience, we don't feel capable of taking it somewhere to get it fixed. We don't know that it would be done correctly, and this would help with that. So I would really appreciate y'all's support of this bill.
Well, let me just say I'm so sorry about what happened and for your struggle, but I admire that you're here today
Thank you.
sharing your story and trying to help do the right thing. Thank you for being
And we
here.
did have photos, which I understand were handed out to you.
Yes,
Some of them are from us before the accident. Some are the vehicle. Some of us are immediately after the accident. And I'll be honest with you, I intentionally did not include the most graphic photos of Matthew's wounds. I included one of it after it even had surgery. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Next, we have Eric McKenzie. And please state your name, who you represent, and how you're testifying on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members, for allowing me to express our reasons to support House Bill 1348. My name is Eric McKenzie, and I'm a board member of the Auto Body Association of Texas. I'm also the collision director for Park Place Dealerships, a luxury auto dealer group in the Dallas-Fort Worth area with 14 dealerships and 2,000 employees. I directly oversee our 3 manufacturer-certified collision centers that employ 150 people. Our largest of those 3 collision centers in Dallas is also the largest collision center in the country by both square footage and sales volume. This collision center services all of our luxury brands and is manufacturer certified by 9 of those brands. One of the key points of our bill speaks to mandating that insurance companies must pay to follow OE guidelines, or original equipment, which is an industry term for vehicle manufacturer. I wanted to list a few other state, national, and international organizations that also state that following OE manufacturer repair procedures and guidelines are the only safe and proper way to perform a collision repair. Those organizations are TADA, the Texas Auto Dealers Association, the North Texas New Car Dealers Association, the Alliance of Automotive Service Providers, the ASA Automotive Service Association, the Assured Performance Network, the Society of Collision Repair Specialists, and ICAR, the Inter-Industry Collision on Automotive Repair, which is supported by insurance companies. Also, the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers and Association of Global Automakers. These 2 trade groups make up 99% of U.S. new car and light truck manufacturers, and they have aligned the automakers with what all the previously mentioned national trade groups have said, which is that all post-collision vehicles repairs must follow OEM original equipment manufacturer procedures. The reason we are here on behalf of this bill is because insurance departments in many states, including Texas, as Representative Clardy mentioned, have told the Society of Collision Repair Specialists that nothing in state statutes specifically recognize OEM repair procedures, which are repair instructions developed by the automakers themselves as a basis for settling claims. Despite nearly all agencies declaring they were responsible for claim settlement practices and complaints regarding procedure-related short pays, few also had a concrete answer whether they viewed OEM procedures as a reasonable basis for settling a claim. Some, including Texas, declared themselves hamstrung by the absence of state law giving them the ability to make that decision. To further explain the predicament we professional collision repairers face and express the great need for this bill, I would like to tell you about a current repair we have at one of our Mercedes-Benz certified facilities today. It's a 2009 G-Wagon, which is a completely new model. This particular vehicle currently has 400 miles on it and was the 6th vehicle purchased by our longtime clients just this past December. This vehicle was impacted so hard on the left front suspension that the left front wheel is pointed towards the right front wheel. We've been waiting for approval to replace 2 damaged components from the accident since February 27th. The first is the left front wheel that I mentioned. It has several chunks of metal alloy missing from it, and the engineers at Mercedes-Benz have told us that once that severity of damage occurs, the wheel must be replaced. The second component that has not been approved is the steering gear, which is the electronic gear assembly that attaches to the steering wheel and to both front suspension assemblies. Mercedes-Benz engineers have told us that when an impact occurs with enough force to bend or break the tie rods, the steering gear must be replaced for safety reasons. State Farm has refused to pay for either of these components after multiple requests. They've continued to delay this repair and tell our client that we are asking for parts that are not needed. When I asked a supervisor with State Farm electronic difficulty, how they had more knowledge than Mercedes-Benz and could not determine that these parts did not need to be replaced, he stated that State Farm has no better knowledge than Mercedes-Benz, only that their own research department tells them these parts are not needed. The fact that the largest insurer in the state feels that they know more than Mercedes-Benz, the inventor of the automobile, is exactly why House Bill 1348 needs your support and should be passed. Thank you for your time.
Members, are there any questions? Thank you for your testimony. At this time, the chair would like to call Gerald Condon. Mr. Condon, if you could just state your name and who you're representing and your position on the bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, committee members. I'm Gerald Condon. I'm the president of Collision and Classics in Beaumont and also the president of the Southeast Texas Collision Group. We're in favor of House Bill 1348.
Thank you.
In recent years, a new common denominator has paralleled the medical profession and the Texas collision industry. It's called surprise billing, or some of it called balanced invoicing. Texas consumers pay full price for auto insurance coverage, while insurance company tactics leave the consumer paying the balance of the repair at the collision center counter. Do you substitute parts and save money? The question is, to cut costs, insurance companies, field adjusters, and claims handlers typically write repair estimates which specify aftermarket imitation automotive parts. In addition, the claims handler may load the estimate with worn, used parts from heavily damaged or flood vehicles where the condition of the part is minimal and uncertain. Cheap, untested parts are substituted on insurance estimates daily, which create documented safety risk, as published through the original equipment manufacturers and independent laboratory testing. Texas families shouldn't face double jeopardy by the insurance companies for having their vehicles repaired after an accident with imitation parts. Texans need a new law requiring only new original equipment manufactured parts to be installed after a collision to protect everyone. Do you cut labor and save money? The question is, in addition, the same field adjusters and claims handlers refuse written documentation of OEM repair procedures, totally denying the specific manufacturer's repair guidelines. Repetitively, claims handlers refuse to accept documentation from industry training leaders such as ICAR, outlining collision repair methods. Again, cut labor and save money. The typical statement from the adjuster, "We don't pay for that procedure," is a dangerous sidestep to save money and risk lives. These daily insurance practices are relentlessly pushed upon Texas collision repair companies. In addition, each supplemental request follows the same pattern. Over and over, big insurance routinely denies, reduces, and omits parts and labor set by OEM standards, a high safety risk for Texans. Consumer shock and surprise billing. We've all read recently about doctors and emergency centers battling the insurance companies for payment of charges, in most cases only to collect the invoice balance through the patient, coining the phrase surprise billing. Currently, the Senate and House are working jointly on bills to stop this burden on Texans. The parallel to the collision repair industry is uncanny. Big insurance companies dispute auto claims much in the same way as they do medical bills. Once again, the Texas consumer is left to pay the difference at the collision center counter, while big insurance company quarterly profits reach billions. Safety over profits? By their own printed estimates, insurance companies place profit over safety by refusing payment for new, certified OEM parts and labor procedures to properly repair collision-damaged vehicles. We see time and time again, Texas lives are less important than insurance profits. Stop big insurance from leaving Texas consumers to pay the balance of the collision repairs. We don't want surprise billing. Let big insurance know OEM parts and safety is not an option for Texas drivers. Safety saves lives. And I thank you, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Thank you so much for your time, sir. Appreciate you being here. The man of the hour, Burl Richards. All right. All right. Please state your name, who you represent, and how you're testifying on the bill.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman and members. My name is Burl Richards, and I represent the Auto Body Association of Texas, and I am in favor of House Bill 1348. I would like to say, yes, I do have a little redneck in me, but I concede to the judge that was here earlier, and I think he did a good job of getting his point across.
That's a good
Absolutely. On behalf of Todd Tracy, Todd was here because of a family emergency. Todd had to leave early, but I asked Todd if there was anything that he wanted me to say in his behalf, and he wanted me to make sure you guys knew that as a lawyer that routinely sues our industry, he is at the forefront of getting this bill passed because he cares more about safety than he does about getting richer. And that's a big statement coming from Todd. And when I was first introduced to Todd, and thank God for Ms. Siebeshan for her taking the time to come here and testify on behalf of this, because when me and some of the others in our association heard about this vehicle and the damage that was happened, the first thing I did was reached out to Todd Tracy. Didn't know him from anybody, but I called him and I asked him if he would speak at our trade show association. I took a lot of flack from a lot of body shops from it, so I said, you're letting the fox in the hen house. This guy sues body shops. And, you know, our thought was, look, we better figure this out, and we better figure out what happened, and we need to prevent this from happening. So, again, I represent the Auto Body Association of Texas. Our members employ thousands of hardworking men and women across the state of Texas. There's been a growing epidemic across not only the state, but the nation of insurance companies dictating the repair method of a vehicle, putting dollar signs over the lives of your constituents. They write the policies, they dictate the cost of repair, and the methodology in which a vehicle is repaired. They do this by refusing to pay for ICAR and original equipment manufacturers' safe practices, and by only paying the prevailing rate. This is an undefined term that insurance companies write in their policies to dictate the cost and method of repair. I've got to tell you guys, we have exhausted every effort before we came here and before we wrote this bill. We've had 3 separate meetings with TDI last year. Representative Clardy was present, Ware Wendell was present, many other people that you see in the room right now from other associations were present, and we continually were told that TDI has no jurisdiction, they have no authority, and you're going to have to pass legislation, and that's why we're here. Mr. Condon said earlier that we want to use only OEM parts. We do. This bill is a compromise. If I had an opportunity to write a bill, it wouldn't be this bill, but I believe this is a compromise, and it's all about safety. The bill doesn't say that you have to use OEM parts. It just says that the parts that you're going to use have to be proven to be the same standard as the manufacturer that built the car, that engineered the car, and that crash tested the car.
I think that's a good point you should elaborate on, that the testing part. I had someone come and talk to me today about that, and I thought that was interesting.
Yes, sir. So Todd Tracy has the information. So I'll go into it real quick. I know we've been here a long time today, but what Todd did is after the Siebeshan wreck and everything that went on there, Todd asked me if I would take an identical car just like Mr. and Ms. Siebeshan's car and bring it to my shop and glue a roof on identically the way it was repaired originally. I said I would. I said, Todd, would you be willing to provide another car, and I want to take aftermarket imitation parts and I want to put them on the front end of the car. I put aftermarket reinforcement bumpers, aftermarket hoods, aftermarket fenders. And I said, if I do that, will you crash test the car? He said he would. We took these cars to California. We crash test the cars. And the difference is eye-opening. And Todd has all this information. He has it in a PowerPoint. I believe he's presented you guys this information. If not, I can certainly get it to you. So the next question was, well, okay, we see how the aftermarket repair compared to an OEM car that had never been wrecked. We took a car, a Honda Fit, just like Ms. Ebashan's, that had never been wrecked. We compared it to the aftermarket wreck. Then, through our association, through our own money, with no help from anyone, we purchased another Honda Fit. This was 6, 7, 8 months down the road. I purchased all OEM parts out of our pocket, for nobody else. Paid to have the vehicle taken to California. Mr. Tracy paid for the crash test. We paid to have it brought back. It proves something that nobody in this industry has ever done to our knowledge. Yeah, like Travis said, I'm a redneck, and my question is, why did it take a redneck to take a car and repair it by OEM standards and aftermarket standards to prove whether or not it would hold up the same? It didn't. And this is not my opinion. This is proof. We have proof. We have scientific proof that the aftermarket repair, we using aftermarket parts, imitation parts, compared to the car using OEM parts, did not hold up the same. And it would have caused severe injuries, as noted in his findings. So that's...
And just to clarify, OEM doesn't mean parts manufactured by the maker of the vehicle. It just means that they're to a certain standard.
Actually, it does mean that
Okay.
they're parts
All
manufactured by the OEM, by the maker, the vehicle maker of the vehicle.
But
So-
the bill doesn't limit.
No, sir.
that.
No, sir. What it says is you can put any part you want on the car, but you need to prove that those parts are the same standard as the OEM part.
Right.
So the problem here, guys, is, and girl, ladies, these parts aren't being crash tested. These aftermarket parts aren't being crash tested. And all these guys and girls that are in here that own body shops around the state, we purchase the parts because that's all they're going to pay us for. It's either that or we pay the parts out of our pocket or the consumer has to pay for it. We get the parts in and they don't fit, the liability's still on us. The repairs, and I'm going to get into this in a second, but the repairs, the liability, I own that repair. So you're asking small businesses in the state of Texas to make a decision. Do we take the money out of our own pocket and repair it the way the manufacturer said repair it, or do we fix it the way the insurance company is dictating? So
Yes, Representative Johnson.
Right, because you highlight a really important problem. In my practice, I've handled tens of thousands of property damage claims and had to deal with navigating property damage repair. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's so frustrating is consumers who have paid their premium month after month after month go to get their car fixed, and oftentimes the carrier will say, you have to use used parts.
that's right.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then so you go get a used wheel, for example.
Yes.
And then when that used wheel falls apart and then that person's dead, who's liable for that repair? You are.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Exactly.
And the carrier says, "Oh, we didn't make the repair. We didn't have anything to do with the repair." But it's that body shop who put that used part on there because that's all we would pay for, and not, and that's just terrible.
Ms. Johnson, you understand it completely. That's the struggle that we would deal with as a collision repair center every single day. You guys mentioned, I forgot which member asked earlier if that means that an insurance company could not refer someone to their preferred shop. Was that you, Chairman Vo, that asked that question?
That's for if they provide a list.
Yeah, yes, sir. They do provide a list. So we're going to get into prevailing for a second, and it goes back to what you're saying, Ms. Johnson, because what happens is the insurance companies have been granted the ability to be the finder of fact. Okay? They've been granted this authority by the TDI because TDI has allowed the prevailing language in their bill, in the policies in the state of Texas.
But the problem, though, is on that, though, that consumers, though, when they pay for their policy and they get into on the front side and they think they have collision and they have, I think to the previous witness example, a brand new Mercedes or a brand new vehicle, or even if it's a 10-year-old vehicle, when they think they're going to go get it repaired, you think you're going to have quality parts. And Mercedes isn't limited to fixing the Mercedes. Any mechanic, any repair shop can perform the repairs. It's just that they have to use the safe parts.
Well,
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Well, they have to use the safe parts, but also they should be following the OEM recommended procedures and processes. So that's where prevailing becomes an issue. When you talk about prevailing, you're just not talking about the rate, you're talking about the procedures. And I'll tell you, I mean, I had a 45-minute conversation with State Farm. This was 4.5 years ago before we started the Auto Body Association of Texas. We were having the same conversation you and I talk about repairing the vehicle properly. And finally, I said, look, Burl, we've been into your shop. We know you're doing it right. We know you are. But here's the thing. We don't have to pay you. We only had to pay the PCP. And I asked the question, what is the PCP? It's the prevailing competitive practice. So what they're saying is, because these other 4 shops are not reading the procedures, they're not following the procedures, they're not asking to be reimbursed, therefore they don't have to reimburse me, or these other shops that are doing it right. And that's just not right.
Yeah. And, and Representative Johnson, we don't get a choice in the insurance we buy. You pay a little less, you could use alternative parts, or you pay this
Right.
and you can
the
replace
policy doesn't
with
say,
the parts. that-
when we
yeah.
fix your car, we're going to use used, worn-out parts that might cause you to get into a wreck in the next 100 miles that you're driving your car.
Yeah.
And if it's a quality used part on the same year model vehicle and it's been tested and we know it's right, there's not an issue.
Right.
But I'm just telling you, I don't know anybody in this room that would want to use suspension part off of a vehicle. Understand, these are parts that come off of totaled cars or trucks. Who wants that part on their vehicle? After many meetings with TDI, we were told repeatedly that collision centers determine their own rates, and the insurance only pays what is fair and reasonable according to a finder of fact. I got no problem with that. If it's up to a finder of fact to find out what's fair and reasonable, I think that's the way our judicial system's set up, and I think that's fair. I asked repeatedly who determines the prevailing rate, and myself and Representative Clardy were repeatedly told that TDI nor the state of Texas recognizes or enforces prevailing rate verbiage. Yet, TDI has allowed this term to be introduced in many insurance policies in the state. We have been instructed by TDI to create a law and define things like a prevailing rate, and that is exactly what the author seeks to do in this bill.
Excellent.
We were told over and over and over from TDI, we can't do anything. It's beyond our reach. You're going to have to pass a law. That's why we're here.
Awesome. Members, any questions? Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you, sir.
The chair now calls Greg Luther. Please state your name, who you represent, and how you're testifying on the bill.
My name is Greg Luther. I'm the chairman of the board for the Houston Auto Body Association, and I work for a small dealer group in Houston, Texas, Helfman Motors.
Yes, sir. And you're testifying?
I'm testifying for House Bill 1348.
Thank you, sir. Please proceed.
So, I gotta find my stuff. So let me start by saying thank you to the committee and Representative Clardy for the opportunity to voice my support for House Bill 1348. My name is Greg Luther. I'm the chairman of the board for the Houston Auto Body Association and a body shop manager for Helfman Motors in Houston, Texas. Helfman is a family-owned dealer group with 5 dealerships and 3 body shops. One of the major issues that House Bill 1348 will address is the insurance company's steering of Texans to contracted direct repair providers, or more commonly known as DRPs. Although steering is not allowed under current Texas law, it still happens every day, and there's not anything the consumer or a shop can do to stop it. Please know that I am not anti-insurance. I participate in many DRPs, and although we have removed ourselves from more than 10 of these agreements over the years, we still belong to a select few that work for us and our customers. But I'm here to tell you that after ending these agreements, the steering started almost immediately. Companies that once referred clients to us were now sending them to their other shops. These other shops that still work under a flawed business model that incentivizes bad behavior, such as fast, cheap repairs, in order to cut costs for the insurance companies. Although untrue, Our customers were being told that if they came to our shop that their repairs would not be guaranteed. They may incur out-of-pocket expenses for charges not covered by the insurer. Their vehicle would not be looked at by the insurer for 7 to 10 days, and the rental may not be covered during this time. Our customers, employees, family members filing claims with these insurers were routinely misled into believing their only option was to go to the insurer's preferred repair shop or risk issues with the processing of their claim. We filed numerous complaints with TDI, never receiving a resolution. However, we did receive letters advising us to seek legal counsel to resolve this problem, but who has time for that? Another issue that House Bill 1348 will address are the concerns of not following original equipment manufacturers or OEM repair procedures. By not following these procedures, Texans are put at risk of serious injury or death should another accident occur on a previously repaired vehicle. Some of today's vehicles are so advanced that they can apply their brakes, they can park themselves, some even drive themselves. From a safety standpoint, these vehicles have evolved into technological marvels over the last 5 years. With that said, the collision repair industry and insurance providers are not doing a good job keeping up with these vehicle advancements. With the changes in vehicle construction, such as aluminum panels, exotic steels, the advent of advanced driver assist systems, or commonly referred to as ADAS, we can no longer repair these cars like we did 5 years ago. We must rely on the OEMs to tell us how to repair the vehicles they have designed, crash tested, and built. All shops and insurance providers should be required to follow proven OEM repair procedures while using parts certified by the OEM through crash testing, or if non-OEM parts are to be used, they must be independently certified in the same manner as the OEM. In conclusion, I could talk all day about why House Bill 1348 is needed and why without this bill, Texans will continue to be at risk of injury or death in previously repaired vehicles. Also, this bill will affect almost every Texan, including current vehicle owners, future vehicle owners, passengers, pedestrians, drivers of other vehicles that may be in close proximity should a failure occur. A wise man once told me that capitalism without morality doesn't work. I'm here to tell you that when someone or a company is putting their profits before someone else's safety, we have a morality problem that our state reps can and should fix. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Luther, thank you for your testimony. Members, are there any questions? Appreciate your time, sir.
Thanks.
Chair now calls Todd Tracy. Okay. Let the record reflect Mr. Tracy is no longer here. Chair calls Chad Kiffey? Keefe.
Oh, we were close.
Man, you messed it up. That's much better than I was going to say.
It's a tough one. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for allowing me to speak today. My name's Chad Keefe. I'm a board member with Auto Body Association of Texas. I'm also the general manager of Burley's Body and Fine Auto Finishes here in Austin. I'm in support of Bill 1348. This bill, as I tend to refer to as the common sense bill, if you read it, it makes common sense. The way these cars are being built these days, it's not like it was in the 80s, the 90s, and even the early 2000s. I got into this business in the early 2000s. OEM repair procedures weren't something you looked up. Today, if you're not looking them up and you're not reading them, you're not fixing the car the correct way. And there's a lot of people out there that aren't doing that. And a reason for that is a lot of the people, their excuse, a lot of body shops, they can't get paid for it. They can't get paid for what you have to do to fix these cars the correct way. And it's a shame, and it's jeopardizing people like Ms. Sibachon, who a company made a decision to cut corners, not follow the procedures, along with that insurance company's pressure to do so. This bill will help ensure quality parts and correct OEM repair procedures are covered in the repairs to a vehicle. OEM repair procedures. When you read them, they tell you where to put the weld, what kind of glue, what type of glue. They're very specific. It's very detailed as far as what you're reading. Today's vehicles are not like the vehicles built in the 80s and the 90s. As newer vehicles are designed and engineered, and new materials are introduced, it is vital that parts that are replaced in an accident are equal to the parts that were originally designed and installed by the OEM manufacturer. This is vital to the vehicle to perform in the way it was designed to if involved in a future accident. House Bill 1348 is not an anti-aftermarket parts bill. It doesn't call for only OEM parts to be used in a repair. It simply states that if a part is to be considered like, kind, and quality, it needs to be just that. These imitation parts are often made of different metal types and often weigh differently. These parts very seldom match the contours and the body lines of the vehicle that they are supposed to fit. These factors are going to alter airbag timing and how the vehicle distributes energy in an accident. And I believe Burl testified earlier that ABAT tested that and proved that's evident. As a shop manager, I would have no problem using aftermarket parts if they were certified to meet the requirements of this bill. If they were certified and proven that they were the same and they met the same specifications as the OEM parts, body shops won't have a problem using them. Until there are more guidelines and restrictions put on aftermarket parts, Until there are more guidelines and restrictions put on aftermarket part companies to verify and ensure they meet the OEM specifications, how can a shop or an insurance company stand behind the safety of that part? Texas drivers are owed safe and proper repairs, and their lives should not be put in jeopardy over corporate profits. The assumption that body shops make more money using OEM parts is also not always the case. I've heard this time and time again. The insurance company tells me the only reason I want to use OEM parts is I can make more money. They cost more. The truth of the matter is I make more money using aftermarket parts. The cost margins are actually greater on aftermarket parts typically than they are OEM parts. So I can actually make more money using aftermarket parts. And if that's the case, why wouldn't all body shops want to use aftermarket parts? Because they're not the same. They don't fit. And when they don't fit, a technician, and one thing I want to explain, in our industry, our technicians are paid commission. They're paid based on the hours that are written on the estimate. So when you use an aftermarket part that doesn't fit, that technician's got to make a decision. Does he alter the part and just move it on down the road, or does he stop the job and have to wait for them to get another part approved that he's not going to get paid twice to put the part on again? Because that's what happens quite often, is these technicians are paid commission. If an insurance company is not going to pay the labor that it takes to fix these cars, that employee is not getting paid, is he going to do it? I'm kind of straying off of this. I've got a situation recently.
We actually prefer that.
Okay,
we
I'll make it
prefer
short.
you just talk to us.
Okay,
Then
perfect.
read. It's much better dialogue for the both of us.
Okay.
Okay.
There's an insurance company out there that made it mandatory for all their body shops to become ICAR welding certified. There's a requirement X number of technicians have to be ICAR welding certified. And that sounds great if it was smoke and mirrors. They want the technician to be certified to be able to weld 12 different welds. During the certification, the whole certification is testing those welds and destructing them to make sure they're proper and good. That's the certification, okay? None of the estimating systems, when we talk about procedure pages, is that included in the repair times of replacing a quarter panel or replacing a welded on panel. That's all on top of that. You have to, that's something you have to pay the technician to do. All the OEMs say it's a requirement when you work on their vehicles to do proper welding tests. This is going to ensure that that weld holds up if that car is ever involved in an accident. You're supposed to take the metal from the car as a donor. You're supposed to put it together, test the weld, test the machine, make sure the machine's getting the electricity it needs, make sure the tuning's right, and then you're supposed to destruct test that weld. That same insurance company will not pay to do that performance. If you request that labor time to do that weld test, they won't pay. But yet they made all their shops be certified. The burden gets pushed onto us, but then they don't want to pay. There's arguments out there that passing this bill is going to increase premiums. I disagree. I think this will actually save premiums in the long run. It'll reduce lawsuits. It'll reduce friction costs between the shop and the insurance company. I have lots of friction costs that I take on and that insurance companies pay when they come to my shop. Because every customer that comes to my shop, I fight for that customer for OEM parts and correct procedures. And that costs the insurance company money. If they would just pay me to fix the car the right way, I can reduce cycle time. Cycle time is from the time you get the car in your shop to the time the car goes home. We all judge it's all measured cycle time. Insurance companies push DRPs for real fast cycle times. Well, when they put those high pressures on those shops are cutting corners because they want to make that DRP happy, okay? But with this, if we can take out some of this friction costs and allow us to fix cars the right way, we could all fix cars pretty quick.
Thank you.
Subsequent damage to the vehicle, it has been proven that if you put aftermarket parts on a car, if that car is involved in another accident, the damage is going to be more. So the insurance company is actually going to be paying more the next time that car's in an accident. Customer satisfaction and loyalty will increase. You can't measure that. As an insurance company, I don't know about you guys, but the top 10 insurance companies, I see them all the time. They're spending tons of money on advertising. Let the body shop be their advertising. I refer insurance companies all the time that take care of my clients.
Yes, sir. If we could just wrap up your
I'm going to make it real quick.
Sure, thank you.
Texas has several insurance companies right now. In the state of Texas, there's probably 5 or 6 that actually offer an OEM endorsement policy. And this will prove that this is not going to drive premiums up. 3 of them, 3 of the top 10, Liberty Mutual, Nationwide, and Farmers all offer an OEM endorsed policy. I took a late Lexus, my wife's car, and I got quotes for all 3. Liberty Mutual, I got a quote for a standard policy, all the same coverages, and then I added the OEM endorsement. It was $14 more a month. $14. Doesn't seem like a lot of money. I went to Farmers, it was $8.63. I was blown away. Nationwide, $2.95. So if they're going to argue that it's going to drive up premiums, you already have 3 insurance companies right there doing it.
They're on your side, Nationwide.
Well, they're on your side if you they're on your side if you know about it. You got it. They don't advertise it. You go on Farmers' website and you can't actually select it. Nationwide you can, Liberty Mutual you can, Farmers you can. You actually have to call them. And quite often the agents don't even know they offer it. So yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be considered. And I'm going to close in this. This bill will set the standard for collision repairs in Texas that should have been set years ago. As vehicles continue to get more and more sophisticated and technically engineered, the importance of quality standards in a repair process is crucial to Texas driver safety. Who better to know how to repair a vehicle than the people that designed and engineered the vehicle in the first place? Please do not let smoke and mirrors and corporate greed cloud the importance and safety of this bill. As a Texas driver, your safety and your family's safety depend upon it. Thank you.
Vice Chair Overton.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the testimony. Okay, so you mentioned I get the OEM part thing. That's pretty easy to figure out. But you mentioned OEM repair manuals and procedures. Are there other manuals and procedures out there that auto body shops routinely use other than what the manufacturer recommends? And who promulgates that, and where the heck does that come from?
Well, it used to be you refer to ICAR and what ICAR standards were, but that was when everything was mild steel. But with all the different types of steel that you have, a car can have anywhere from mild steel, aluminum, to high strength steel to ultra. you have to go to the repair procedures from the OEMs now to know what you're dealing with and where they want you to cut these parts. So there's ICAR, which is a.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm trying to get at is, so let's say you decide you're not going to do that. Do you just sort of say, well, I think I'm going to cut here because that looks like the right spot, and that's what the guy that owns the shop normally does? I mean, where are you getting that information from? If you're not following OEM standards, what standards are you following, and how did you develop those standards?
That's the problem with our industry. That's what happened with Mrs. Sibashan's
So
case.
is that an insurance issue problem, or is that an industry problem within itself that you have people within the industry that aren't following industry standards?
Both.
Okay.
So,
all right.
so yeah.
I think that's important for us to understand.
It is. You've got good shops and you got bad shops. Okay. The problem with our industry is not 100% on insurance companies. It's within ourselves as well. But we need to take out the excuse that we can't get paid for it, and educate ourselves and do the training. My shop, we've got 8 certifications, high dollar certifications. They cost us a lot of money. Are any of you guys in the body shop business? You can open a body shop tomorrow, and you'll get paid the same amount of money I get paid per hour, and you don't know anything about what you're doing. I use that all the time with the house across the street. Someone can open that, a body shop right there. That's one issue we have in our industry. But we do need to, we need to educate ourselves, we need to follow OEM repair procedures. It's out there for us.
Thank you. Any other questions, members? Thank you so much for your time, sir. Great testimony. Chair calls Kevin Fisk. Will you please state your name, who you represent, and how you're testifying on the bill? Come a long way, it seems like.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
My name is Kevin Fisk. I'm with LKQ Corporation. I'm here in opposition to House Bill 1348.
Yes, sir.
LKQ is the nation's largest provider of aftermarket, recycled, and remanufactured auto parts to the auto repair industry. We have over 1,800 employees here in the state of Texas at 43 facilities around the state. They include our salvage facilities, we have aftermarket facilities, we have remanufacturing facilities throughout the state. We feel that this will have a direct impact, of course, on our business. And while it's been stated that this is not an anti-aftermarket bill, we've seen these, and we've figured out that if you allow the OEM, the original equipment manufacturer, the automakers, to write the procedures that you have to follow, they have and will write procedures that say you can only use OEM parts to properly repair the vehicle. So that's, we've already seen that. We've heard that from them. We know that's where they're going. It is, in that event, a mandate for use of OEM parts and a de facto ban of alternative parts, aftermarket, recycled, remanufactured. We think that that sort of thing will stifle the healthy competition that the repair industry has already. It'll drive up costs. If you take alternative parts out of the marketplace, you're left with only OEM. They'll be short in supply because then everybody will be using OEM parts. And if everyone's using OEM parts, supply gets smaller, price goes up. The cost of repairs will go up. The number of total loss vehicles will also go up because of that cost to repair them. Insurance companies will decide that given that we have to spend all of this on OEM parts to make the repair, we're going to declare the vehicle a total loss. So you're going to see a whole lot more of that. We don't think that the notion of repair procedures is properly defined in the bill. We think that that leaves it open too much. And then following a repair procedure, which we agree that the repair shops, we support them making safe, proper repairs to vehicles and also being fairly compensated for the repairs they've made. But we don't think the language that would allow for an anti-competitive nature in the marketplace on parts is the right thing to do.
Mr. Fish, if I could, can you explain or elaborate on the testing done on your parts?
Sure. We do our own testing. We source, and I need to clarify something that you heard before about OEM parts. OEM replacement parts aren't manufactured by the manufacturer of the cars.
Okay.
They're often manufactured by the same folks that we're purchasing our parts from, aftermarket parts. So they're coming from the same facility, same manufacturer. Difference is we've got Keystone on our parts. That's our brand name of aftermarket part, Keystone Platinum Plus. I just put in a plug. On the testing that we do, we go to our manufacturing suppliers and we randomly test. We'll go to the facilities and we'll go down through, let's say, pick out hoods or bumpers or whatever part. They are taken by our aftermarket testing crew, and they're shipped back to the United States or from whatever state that we've sourced the part. And then we have a testing facility that we test the parts. Wheels, bumpers, hoods, hood latches, you name it.
Are they tested on par, or is the testing equivalent to what the OEM parts are tested? And I think one of the differences that was pointed out to me was that you test the part, but you don't test it as on a vehicle. You just test the individual part.
Right. We test the parts. In fact, we test our parts versus OEM parts to see how they compare, to make sure that our standard on the parts is good as the OEM. So it has, for us, it has to meet that standard.
The same standard the OEM?
Well, I mean, when we do a comparison of parts, we want to make sure that ours performs as well as theirs.
So if we
but we don't put it on vehicles. Right. I mean, it's nearly impossible to recreate a crash over and over and over and get the same results, even if you use OEM parts. I mean, you're going to get a different result, and they're not going to run. The OEMs aren't going to run 100 cars to see if that part performed the same time over and over and over again 100 times.
I understand that. I'm not saying that we create the ultimate
right.
standard that can't right. be met, but I think a basic standard that would create a sense of responsible outcomes.
We have we've got videos of vehicles that we've outfitted with aftermarket parts that performed as well or better than OEMs. I mean, those are available on the internet.
Well, if that's the case, and I'm sure it is, I hear great things about your company, and you've done very well. And I don't think that the intent here is to eliminate your ability to compete in the marketplace. I think what we're trying to do is create standards for public right. safety.
Well, if we can do standards without language from the original equipment manufacturers in their repair procedures mandating use of only OEM parts.
Okay. Well, I may have to look closely at that, but I don't think that that's how I read the
No, that's not how the bill's written. But once you write the language saying that you have to strictly follow the OEM procedure, if the OEMs in their procedure say that you have to use OEM parts, then the law states you have to follow that procedure, and then it naturally follows then that you would have to use OEM parts.
Okay. We'll look at that. Members, is there any other questions?
And this, yeah. Mr. Chairman, if I may, this not a new issue. This is being addressed in other states, and this is where we have not found the fix for this issue on parts.
Okay.
And
Well,
it's
we
still being
appreciate
discussed.
that. We
So,
appreciate that, sir.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
the
I appreciate you
opportunity.
coming all this way
Thank
to
you.
testify. Members, are there any other questions? Thank you for your time, sir. Appreciate it. Chair now calls Thomas Tucker. If you could state your name, who you represent, and how you're testifying on the bill. Good evening, Mr. Tucker. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members
It's
of the
evening
committee.
now.
It is evening. We've been here a long time.
Yes, sir.
But my name is Tom Tucker. I am the Director of State Government Affairs for the Auto Care Association, and we are opposed to House Bill 1348.
Thank you, sir. Please proceed.
Just for the record, the Auto Care Association is a 3,000-member national trade association of product manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, suppliers, retail and independent repair shops all across the country. I have prepared testimony, but I kind of want to address a few things that we've talked about earlier today.
Let's
just to
do
kind
that
of clear it
instead.
up.
Yeah.
When you talked about testing just a few moments ago, no one has talked about CAPA, C-A-P-A. That's the Certified Auto Parts Association. They've certified over 100 million parts, and many of the aftermarket parts have to be certified. And there's an international standard that they use. That is something that the committee should look at.
Okay.
It is a standard that most aftermarket parts use. However, the other issue I wanted to address, it really goes to the heart of OEM parts versus aftermarket parts. One of the things that has not been discussed today in this hearing is that many of the same companies that make OE parts make aftermarket parts, and those are our members. I'm sure you've heard of companies like Bosch, who makes brakes and filters and fuel injectors. They sell them to the OEMs, but they sell the exact same part to the aftermarket. The only difference is they're branded differently in a different box and packaging, but it's the exact same part, the exact same component. Companies like Monroe and Monroe Shocks, Walker and Exhaust Systems, and Tenneco with suspensions. And while we've talked about that, Mr. Fitz just talked about that there have been other efforts across the country. There have been 12 similar bills being addressed across the country, similar to this. The difference is the vehicle manufacturers have come to the table with language exempting parts. The vehicle manufacturers aren't here. And while the discussion has said this is not an aftermarket parts ban, it actually will be. And when you look at from an economic standpoint, in Texas, there are over 195,000 auto care jobs in the great state of Texas, paying more than $14 billion in wages and an economic impact of $36 billion. But I don't even want to focus on that because I want to focus on, we've talked about so much about the problems with aftermarket parts, but we've not talked about the problem with OE parts and recalls, which happen all the time. And if you look at the top 5 recalls from 2018, just the top 5, 4.5 million total recalls of the top 5 vehicle manufacturers from last year. That's about the size of Houston. So think about that. So OE parts aren't necessarily the best also. Both have problems and both need to be addressed. Finally, let me kind of shift and because the other part of this bill is about OE procedures, and we've not done a lot of conversation about that. And if I could, Mr. Chair, I actually have some photos. I'm going to ask if you can see this, and members of the city. If not, I can pass it around. But when you address the issue of OE procedures, can you all see this?
Yes.
All members of the committee? I mean, I have black and white copies. I can
It's
certainly
okay. Please
give to you.
proceed.
So this is a 2018 Yukon Denali.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, may I just
Sure.
hand it to you? So pass it to the committee. Actually, take this one also. The driver hit a concrete slab just a few moments ago, or last year. This bill talks about, and the proponents will always say, you have to follow the manufacturer's procedures. And we actually don't have a real problem with that. However, this is the unintended consequence when you look at that photo. The damage to that photo, and I see the other members of the committee don't have it, so if you want to just pass these out, sir, to the other members so they can actually have a look. The driver of this vehicle hit the concrete slab just on the front fender of the driver's side. The estimate was $4,000, which is pretty much a fair estimate. But when talking with the collision repair shop, following manufacturer's procedures, they couldn't just repair the one side. They had to actually do both sides because of the vehicle telematics and all the onboard computers that have to talk and be in sync together. So they had to replace both sides, which made the repair roughly around $10,000. But something happened. When talking to the vehicle manufacturers about this car, which is a 2018, the vehicle manufacturers came back and said, there is no repair procedure because of, if you look at the front, that metal component, they don't have a repair procedure for it. Now, not a big deal. Not a big deal. But as a result, and if you look at the last page, I'm not sure you have it, but as a result of not having a repair procedure, this $4,000 repair turned into a $48,000 loss. They wrote the car off as a total loss. The car was totaled because of a front fender accident that could have been repaired. The point I'm trying to make is, while it's easy to say follow the manufacturer's procedures, if there are no procedures, then what do? The insurance companies will write it off, insurance premiums will go up, and that's a loss for consumers. That's a brand new car with 7,000 miles on it, total. For that reason, and the parts ban, this is one of the reasons why we oppose this bill. If there was language excluding parts, good language, we would have a second look at it. We've tried to work with the sponsors, but this is the language they put forth.
Members, are there any questions? Thank you so much for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Folks, we've been here since about 8 o'clock, and we have several bills after this. So I'm going to insist that you do not repeat any testimony that has already been provided. If you have original testimony or a very insightful way you want to discuss something that's already been discussed, we welcome that. But please, for the benefit of yourselves and for the many witnesses still waiting to testify on other bills, we ask you to please speak from the heart, don't read testimony, and let it be original to what has already been said. Chair now calls Ware Wendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ware Wendell with Texas Watch, and I hear you loud and clear because you're going to hear from me throughout the evening. So
yeah, okay.
I will be to the point with y'all. We are strongly in support of House Bill 1348. This is one of our top priorities this session because there is a safety crisis in this state. I want to first thank the joint authors of this legislation, Representative Lambert, Representative Vo, and Representative Johnson. We really appreciate your support on this. This is the quintessential bipartisan bill. I mean, it touches just about every Texan because we spend so much on our cars and on our car insurance. And you've heard from small business. This is the small business bill, and we are privileged to be shoulder to shoulder with them on this. I know you've been receiving some letters from some of the opponents of the bill, and I wanted you to have a packet of letters from 1,100 Texans all across the state. You got their names and their addresses in strong support of this. We've gotten a big response from the public. They understand the problem. Mr. Chairman, we spend over $20 billion with a B a year in auto insurance premiums. It's roughly 3 times the size of the homeowners market. And we expect for insurance companies to cover us and to repair the car to the pre-accident condition. That's the legal standard under the case law. I am very proud of working with this industry. I actually embedded with them. I toured their shops. I've heard with my own ears what the insurance adjusters are telling them. Yes, we see that there's this manufacturer safety bulletin that says that you need to replace the steering gear. I personally agree with you. This is the adjuster speaking, but corporates overruled us. We don't have a problem with the customer coming out of their pocket, but we're just not going to pay for it. Steering gears, safety systems on cars. I can confirm that we had multiple meetings with Commissioners Einfalt and Belsnyder at TDI. Frankly, I was disappointed, but the response back was, we can't do anything, and you need to go to the legislature. And so nothing is going to change. And Marcia and Matthew Sebashan and people across the state are going to continue to be subjected to safety concerns and crises unless the legislature acts this session, and we have the power to do that. This is a very narrowly tailored bill that's been brought to you by Representative Clardy. This is not the California approach. It's not even the Wyoming approach. And we are a nonpartisan nonprofit, but I will name check Republican Governor Matt Mead in Wyoming, who adopted very strong pro-consumer standards here that said no insurer shall directly or indirectly require the consumer to pay any difference in price if the consumer elects to use OEM parts in the repair of the vehicle. Consumer doesn't have to come out of pocket to get the OEM parts. That's Wyoming. We're not doing that in this bill.
That might be the first time in my 7 sessions that I hear a California and Wyoming example coupled together. That's interesting.
And I'll tell you, Wyoming's better for the families of their state and of this state, their approaches. But that's not what we're doing in this bill. That's not what Representative Clardy's doing. If your parts are truly like, kind, and quality, LKQ, you shouldn't have a problem with this bill because you can use your parts, but you have to show that they've been tested. And to your precise question, they have to be crash tested. And there's a difference between component testing and whole car testing. And so if you've done that, if you put that time in, you put that money in, frankly, and you've proven that your parts are safe, use the parts. And you heard from some of the witnesses, they're happy to use those parts at that point because they know they're safe. One of our activists said it best, as lawyers often, we know the real people say it better than we do. He said, it's cheaper to repair the car the right way than it is to repair the person. So if we fix these cars safely, you will avoid tragedies like what befell the Sebashan family. So just the human and moral cost in that, but just dollars and cents, bodily injury, we should see those numbers go down, which will drive lower insurance rates. We've heard that the cost right now is de minimis if you buy from one of the few companies that offer an OEM endorsement. So it's not going to drive rates up. It will drive rates down.
Wrap up, partner, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Let me end on this. Mr. Tracy flew here from his daughter's bedside in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. She's in a medically induced coma right now. She's being treated in Pittsburgh. You have his presentation. You have it in electronic form, a PowerPoint with crash test video in it. I would direct you to slides 10 and 11 because it shows in those comparison crash tests, this was performed at one of the 3 NHTSA facilities in the country, as rigorous as it can be. The loads on the neck, 100% more energy loads on the neck with the aftermarket part car. Loads on the femur, 800% more. This is energy being directed into your body. Mm-hmm. So it has been conclusively proven. Rates of safety. This is an incredibly consequential bill. We've heard such compelling testimony today. I've been moved to tears by the folks that have been testifying on any number of issues, but they're all touched by this issue. Safety's job one. We ask for your support, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Members, are there any questions? Thank you so much, Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair now calls to Shad Teromina. I'm really curious how close I got on the man. Please state your name, who you represent, and how you're testifying on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Chad Teromina. I'm with I'm representing the Texas Automotive Recyclers Association. We are in opposition of House Bill 1348.
Yes, sir.
I'll be brief. A lot of the
Thank
points
you.
have been hit on. So,
Appreciate that. Thank you.
TARA is a statewide organization of professional automotive recyclers. TARA has represented an industry dedicated to safe and environmental responsible removal and reuse of disposal of automotive parts. TARA has long been an advocate for consumer choice and competitive automotive parts. Worldwide, each day, over 500,000 recycled, genuine, original equipment manufacturer or OEM parts are sold directly to vehicle owners and repair shops. TARA members sell recycled, genuine OEM parts designed by the OEM and built to meet the OEM requirements for fit, finish, durability, reliability, and safety.
Thank you for keeping it brief. It means a lot to the committee.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Members,
time.
any questions? I appreciate you waiting all this time, sir.
Yes, thank you for your time.
All right, gentlemen, you've done this before. We're gonna have Beeman Floyd, Jay Thompson, and Joe Woods all come up, testify. I'm gonna hold you to a higher standard on your brevity. Paul is getting registered. Don't be right here. And Paul Martin is getting registered. So we're gonna wait for him. Okay. I hope he's running in. Now, there he is. All right, come on in. We'll have Paul sit down. Introduce yourself, who you represent, how you're testifying on the bill. We'll go down the line, and then we'll start the testimony.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Jay Thompson, represent AFACT, and we are opposed to the bill. Chairman Clardy, thank you for your time, and Ms. Johnson, your staff's been very kind to me. I've given written comments going into some detail and some technical aspects that why the bill may not do what it says it is, and I won't go into that. You have those, and I'll be happy to meet with you or the sponsors and discuss those concerns or answer questions.
Thank you. And you did say you were
opposed
to the bill. Okay, great.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Martin, please.
Chair members, Paul Martin, National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies, testifying against 1348. Representative Clardy, thank you. Your staff has always been willing, last session and this session as well, to hear our concerns. Briefly, I want to start with the fact that we've heard a lot of testimony about insurance companies disregarding safety. Our industry spends a lot of money through the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, doing tremendous amounts of research. Seatbelts, airbags, distracted driving. Many of these things are pioneering technologies that our industry has been bringing to the forefront and putting into cars for a number of years. So we do have a vested interest, not just financial, in making sure that our roadways are safe. We've heard a lot of testimony about direct repair programs, making some blanket statements because each company does this differently if they have a repair program. There are a number of qualifications to be in a repair program. You have to have certain levels of training. You have to have certain levels of equipment in your shop. You have to have, in some companies, insurance companies insist you have a number of bays so you can handle in a timely fashion the vehicles that are brought to you. We are concerned that the net effect of this bill is that it will essentially mandate the use of OEM parts. We've heard testimony about the OEM parts. I'm a Jeep guy. I have voluntarily taken off OEM parts of my Jeep and replaced it with better, higher quality non-OEM parts. I had to have my windshield replaced. And when I asked the windshield guy, he's going to put a non-OEM windshield. And I said, well, what's the price difference between non-OEM windshield and OEM? He says, it's about $700. I said, well, what's the difference in quality? And he says, Paul, it's made by the same company. So you've heard testimony that many of these manufacturers of non-OEM parts are, in fact, the same people who make the OEM parts at the end of the day. Representative Vo, you asked a question about the list. As I read this bill, particularly, page 5, this is the introduced version, page 5, lines 11 through 14. This would prohibit a company from offering, communicating, or suggesting in any manner that a particular repair person or facility will provide faster repair times, faster service, or more efficient claim handling than another repair person or facility. That effectively eliminates the list because there's no reason to provide a list if this is the limitation. We're in a business. We're in a business of offering a product to a consumer. We're in a business of saying, we have this program set up under Texas law. You're free to choose whoever you want to repair your vehicle. However, there are some benefits, like a lifetime warranty, like working out problems with the shop, like a faster repair, that there's no statute, no regulation that mandates that we do this. This is something that the free market created on its own. If there are concerns about these repairs, we are always happy to meet with whoever to have some discussions and see if there is middle ground, if there is common ground to discuss some changes we can make. But this bill will effectively, we believe, mandate the use of OEM parts. It will effectively eliminate direct repair programs. And if you eliminate non-OEM parts, the practical effect of that is that the cost of the repairs will go up, because now you can only use OEM parts. It's supply and demand, right?
Please wrap up your testimony, sir.
Sure.
Please.
The last piece. If the price of the repairs do go up, we would expect to see more cars total as a result. So now people who have paid for their cars paid off, it's perfectly repairable. Now those cars are being totaled, and they're going to have to go buy a replacement car and probably have to incur a car loan to get it.
Thank you, sir. Please proceed.
Joe Woods, American Property Casualty Insurance Association.
Yes, sir.
Here in opposition to House Bill 1348.
Thank you.
I'll not repeat anything that's been said. What does the bill add? It adds a definition of prevailing rate, and the prevailing rate is figured by a survey, but it doesn't include any of the DRP shop rates that are out there now. So it's only the highest rates that make up the average rate that makes the prevailing rate. It adds a reasonable and necessary amount in there that would be used based on the manufacturer's estimating system. Again, only the most expensive estimating system is used. What's not in there is anything that says, what it does is the insurer, the policy, or the individual, if they're dealing with the body shop by themselves, has to pay the highest rate, and they have to pay for the manual, the repairs done according to the manual. There's nowhere, anywhere in here that says there's any regulation that's going to confirm that these folks actually used the manufacturer's manual. They're going to charge a $250 blueprint fee, which they do now, which is the time they spent looking at the manual to figure out how to do the repair. So they'll do that, but there's no guarantee anywhere that they actually will do that. And most of them are going to actually follow. I mean, 98, 99% are going to follow the manual step by step. But you're still going to have folks out there that will glue a roof on, cover up the work, and send it back out on the road. So this is a highly unregulated business. The insurance adjusters are really the only people that have any shot at regulating practices and quality. And with that, I'll stop. I did want, if we could make a change, rather than have only OEM parts, have CAPA certified parts, so that it says when the manufacturer's guideline says OEM parts, it says or CAPA certified parts. That would be some help on this bill.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, my name is Beeman Floyd. I represent the Texas Coalition for Affordable Insurance Solutions. My colleagues stole 98% of my testimony.
That's what happens when you go last.
Indeed, and thank you at last. But the only thing I would say is I want to emphasize the point that insurance companies have a decades, centuries now long commitment to safety. That we have worked hard in test crashes. That we work hard in our policies and procedures. Safety is extremely important to us. We spent the previous 4 sessions to this busting our tails on texting while driving because safety is important to us. We champion graduated driver's license to protect young drivers when they're first learning how to drive. So there can be no question that the safety of our customers, the safety of Texans, is important to us. We may have a disagreement with regard to this bill. I was remiss in saying, and I'm sorry to tell you, that I am here in opposition to House Bill 1348. But we do. But although we have a difference in policy, I think we share a common goal, and I think that we have proven that. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Members, are there any questions? Representative O.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I have a question, but any of you can answer my question. If I happen to get into an accident right now, I call my insurance company, right? And I say, can I take my car to any dealer or any body shop or whatever I want to? Well, what's your answer to that? So.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely yes.
Okay, and I take the car to the dealership, and they're going to write me up an estimate and send it over to you. So you have to approve that estimate and see how much you want to, you're going to pay for the damages, right? How does it work?
Representative O, it depends on whether your dealership is part of, and your insurance company have a direct repair program agreement. If you have that agreement, the adjuster does not come out to inspect your car.
Okay.
Okay. The body shop, the repair facility, starts repairs on the car, and they take care of it start to finish. Right. Now, they're in communication, again, depending on the agreement with the insurance company, they're in communication back and forth about the progress of your car. And yes, there's someone at the insurance company looking at to make sure that there's nothing unusual about what they are asking for in the repair. But the premise of this direct repair program is that it eliminates, there was some talk about the friction cost, the friction time. It eliminates much of that time because you're not required to go have an adjuster inspect your vehicle and write an estimate prior to getting it fixed.
So does it mean that I have to take to the adjuster of the insurance company first and have them to get an estimate first, and then I take the estimate to my dealership? Or?
If you choose a facility that has a direct repair program with your insurance company, you will not take your.
How do I know that? So I need to
your
call
adjuster.
you and
Your adjuster will have that conversation with you.
Okay.
Right, and the adjuster will say under Texas law, and they're required to say it's under Texas law. You can take your vehicle to get it repaired wherever you want.
And your approved list, is that a big list?
It's going to vary from company to company, but as a general rule, yes. I mean, there's going to be a lot of options, particularly in larger urban areas when you have lots of people.
Okay, and what about the parts? Are they required to use non-OEM parts, or can they use OEM parts? Or
So
how does it work?
Sure, the agreements are going to be different from insurance company to insurance company. There's been a lot of, and I'll rapidly testify, I'm not a body shop guy. I'm not a car repair guy. So, but I will tell you, my understanding is that each company has a different agreement, right? Some companies say if you, some of the agreements I've seen say if the repair facility wishes to repair a part as opposed to replace it, you must contact the insurance company first. Right, because again, the insurance company is often providing a warranty for the repair.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's a vested interest in the insurance company. Number one, to make sure that the car is repaired because they don't want to keep paying for multiple repairs to the vehicle because they're warranting the repair. Number two, if that vehicle is unsafe, the odds are it's going to have a second claim or a third claim. So the insurance companies try to create and draft these agreements so that there are some checks and balances in the system. And I'm sure people are going to be skeptical of that, and that's fine. But the reality is that there are lots of vehicles that are being repaired right now. Lots of people, lots of programs lots of repair shops that are on these programs voluntarily. There's no requirement if you are a repair facility to be a part of this program. You can operate as an independent, and it's a free country, free market. That's the way it's supposed to work.
Would you say that most of your members, approved members, are they part of the big dealership, or they're not?
So the larger companies, the larger insurance companies tend to be the companies that have the direct repair programs. Some dealerships may be a part of it. Some dealerships may not. That's really going to vary.
So what's the percentage of those dealerships?
I'd have to get back. I would have to get back to you on that. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
Members, any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time. We do not have anyone else registered to testify on House Bill 1348. Is there anyone wishing to testify? Oh, partner. Okay. All right, you are registered. Okay. All right, that's good. That's good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me speak once again.
Hold on one second. Can you give me your name?
John Capriva, and I'm for House Bill 1348. And I represent the Houston Auto Body Association.
Oh, okay.
And I'm the
this
president.
was the bill you were here for.
I'm the president.
All right.
All right. Unlike what Burl said, that he's a
redneck.
redneck.
And you're for the bill.
1348.
And you're for the bill.
I'm sorry?
And you're for the bill.
Yes, I'm
Yes,
for
okay.
it.
Great.
And I'll be as brief as I possibly can be. Burl, kids about being a redneck. Well, I didn't grow up in this industry. I was a banker for 26 years. My company is 89 years old. My dad's been in this business. He passed away in 82. I think he came into the business before man discovered dirt.
Or cars.
Or cars, exactly right. We were one of the first auto bodies in Houston. I have been on almost every direct repair program that's out there. And a comment was made earlier that direct repair labor rates should be included. The reason they're not, when you become a DRP repair facility, you agree to their requirements. You agree to their labor rates. You agree to use their parts. We talk about cycle times. They hold you to cycle times. They look at severity. They look at your numbers. How severe are your numbers? It's called a dashboard. And if your numbers aren't in line with other people within that program, you can be taken off just like that. We talk about a lot of things. It comes down. We're not Lily White in the automobile repair business, neither are the insurance companies. But we've got to come together. We spend a lot of money on equipment. We spend a lot of money on training. And most all of our shops that are in the Auto Body Association of Texas, as well as the Houston Auto Body, we farm together. And now we've got the group down in Beaumont. We've got the Rio Grande Valley that's coming on board. We've got people that are coming on board to repair these cars correctly. There's shops out there that don't know what they don't know. And what that means is they're going to continue to repair cars the way they've always repaired them. In that case, they're asking for a lawsuit, Todd Tracy, and the Sebastian case. And what we're trying to do, we're not trying to put anybody out of business. We're not trying to put LKQ out of business. I use LKQ parts in my business. I hope he doesn't hold that against me. But we've used Kappa parts, we've used LKQs, but we've got to have a starting base somewhere where we're using procedures to repair these cars correctly. And as people have already testified, these cars are so much more technical, lane change options, distance options, backup options. We've got to calibrate those. We have insurance companies that say, we're not going to pay for a pre-scan. Take your choice. We'll give you a pre-scan or a post-scan, but we're not going to pay for both of them. You've got to pre-scan. Well, the lights on the dashboard doesn't show anything's gone off. That's not the issue. We plug in a computer and read the diagnostics of that automobile. When the car is repaired, we post-scan it to make sure all of those procedures have been done correctly. A large percent of the insurance companies don't want to pay for that. And this goes on and on and on. But we've got to have a starting base someplace. Now, there's a number of insurance companies that we deal with that tell you that they're going to pay, but when it comes time to get our check, they may be sitting in San Antonio, they may be sitting in another area. They're making decisions based on the photographs we have to send them to take money off our bottom line. In some cases, they send us out of state to buy parts. And when the part comes in, most times they're substandard, they've been damaged. We have to send them back. Then we go and find parts within our own city that are basically the same price, but we're judged for cycle time, how quickly we get that car out. So what I'm saying is we're not trying to put anybody out of business. We're trying to say we're trying to raise the bar in the repair industry, and that's what this is all about.
In these agreements you have as a preferred, I guess, repair shop, they dictate the parts that you're going to use?
In a majority of the repairs, yes. Okay. And if you don't use them, the appraiser that comes to the shop will criticize you. I mean, it's a big deal. There's a lot of conflict in this industry that needs to go away. And I'll give you another example. I had an appraiser come to my shop. I walked up to him. I said, I don't think I've ever met you before. My name's John Capriva, and I'm the owner of this shop. And he introduced himself. I said, oh, how long have you been with so-and-so insurance company? He said, 6 months. And I said, okay, what were you doing prior to joining this particular company? I was working for Verizon. What were you doing for Verizon? I was selling cell phones. Now, how can that man come into my business and tell me how to repair that car when he's had 6 months of training but not hands-on? How do you pull a unibody car? How do you replace certain mechanical parts and not go to a junkyard and get junkyard parts? Stop and think. These parts sit out in the weather, and they tell us you've got to put steering parts on the car. And I can tell you, every one of you gentlemen up here, you do not want your wife to be on the road in a car that's repaired by one of these particular shops. And I'll give you another quick example, and I'll shut up. There was a vehicle that came into my shop that was having a problem. And they said, can you come pick our car up? We had it repaired at another facility. Sure, we'll be glad to. My technician driving it back said, this car is unsafe. Pulled over to the side of the road. We sent a flatbed, picked that car up, brought it to the shop. Had that person, who was a woman, had her children in the car, got on the freeway and was driving 60 miles an hour, put the brakes on, that car would not have stopped. They put brake lines on backwards. They didn't bleed the brakes. So once again, there's many shops out there that need to be brought up in standard, and that's what we're trying to do.
I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Sorry that we overlooked your registration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Any questions, members? Thank you. Double check. We all right? Now, I believe you do need to visit with our... Okay, we're good. We had you just for the bill, but not registering to testify, but I think we fixed that. I do not have anyone else registered to testify on the bill. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against House Bill 1348? Seeing none, the chair recognizes Representative Clardy to close on his bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members, for your patience here. I think the witness has done a great job explaining. I'm not going to go through it. I know we've got other bills to hear. But let me just close with this. This bill, I was going to say, is about one simple thing, and that's safety. But really, I think it's about safety and it's about trust. And I'm not easily offended. Sarah, you know me for a while. We practice law. We go into courts, so you get a pretty thick skin. And I don't take offense to myself, but I do take offense to the people sitting behind me. When I talk about trust, I mean this. When Mr. Woods says, who's to say they'd do it right? Who's to say they wouldn't just say they'd look at a manual and do what they want to do anyway? I'll tell you who's to say he's not going to do it right. It's this group of people behind us, and it's the people like them live in each and every one of our districts. Those small business owners, those people who do the repairs, they're the ones wanting to make this right. When you've heard them testify here today, what have they talked about? How much money they can make on the margin, or how tight it's been, or they're losing money in their business? No, every single one has talked about safety. You know, when Mr. Thompson said, he said it again, they've testified to it, we're not the repair professionals. Who is? Who are you going to trust when it comes time to decide what do you want to have done with your car? Me, I know who I want to trust. I want to trust my neighbor Burl. I want to trust somebody that we know in our communities, and somebody that cares about our families and talks about safety and not about their market share in the insurance market or whatever else. You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. They're always your friends. Well, we say nationwide. They're on your side when you're paying the premiums. When it comes time to take a claim, not so much. And the folks that can take care of us and our families when it comes to repairing vehicles are the people sitting behind me, members of their organizations, which are growing. This issue is not going to go away. We have a chance in this bill, in this session, to give the power, give the authority, give the direction to our Texas Department of Insurance to be able to do the right thing, and that is protect the citizens of Texas. So, members, I would ask your favorable consideration. Appreciate your attention. Be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Sarah, that sounds like a great closing statement. What do you think? This man's done this before.
I think so.
Members, any questions? Thank you so much.